Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Ace Alliance podcast. Today, we're getting into a side of iGaming that really is changing fast, which is how brands use creative, tech, and new formats to actually get noticed and remembered in a very crowded market. And to discuss that, I'm joined by Aurélie Bensoussan, co-founder and COO at Fortuna Labz. Aurélie, welcome.
Thank you very much, Magda. And first of all, allow me to sincerely thank you. Thank you to Farouk and the entire team at Ace Alliance for this kind invitation. So it is a true pleasure and a wonderful opportunity to be featured on such a renowned and high quality platform. So thank you infinitely for having me.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate those words, Aurélie. It really means a lot to us. And I'm very curious about your story. So could you tell us a tiny bit about yourself and how your journey in iGaming started?
Yeah, of course. So I'm the co-founder of interactive studio, which I launched in 2005 with Cédric Bensoussan. And from the beginning, our ambition was really simple, create visual experiences that people truly remember. So over the past 20 years, we've evolved alongside technology from website creation and SEO to immersive experiences, including holograms, augmented reality, CGI, and AI.
That sounds really great. And what attracted you to the iGaming industry specifically?
So, a lot of things, but the iGaming world came quite naturally to us. We've always had a deep fascination for games, virtual worlds, video games, and interactive experiences. So, that curiosity, almost childlike, pushed us to explore this industry further. So, Fortuna Labz was born from that vision with a dedicated focus on gaming and iGaming. And today, both brands, so Fortuna Labz and Interactive Studio, share the same philosophy, combining creativity with the right technology to help brands stand out in highly competitive environments. So we are creatives at art with strong expertise in visual creation and animation. What we love about iGaming is that is an incredibly rich creative playground, so you know it. And the industry is full of bold design, strong visual codes, characters, and motion. So for us, it is the perfect space to push creative boundaries and deliver work that truly captures attention. And this word is really important.
This is really amazing. And yes, capturing attention in iGaming is really getting so difficult nowadays. And already you have built two brands operating right at this intersection of iGaming and emerging tech. What was the gap that you saw in iGaming back then when you started both ventures? What convinced you that there was real demand for it?
So at the time, most iGaming brands were heavily focused on performance marketing, so with the title of COO. But there was a clear gap when it came to brand identity, visual storytelling, and immersive experiences. So we saw an opportunity to bring a more creative and experiential layer to the industry. So what convinced us was really simple in reality. Attention, so that word, was becoming harder to capture, and traditional formats were losing impact. So brands needed to differentiate not only through offers, but through how they look, feel, and engage. So that's where we positioned ourselves at the intersection of creativity and emerging technologies. So that's it.
That sounds great. And let's talk about content marketing. How do you approach that for iGaming brands?
Oof.
Tough
Really
one.
technical question. Yeah, but I will try to do my best. Usually it starts with a conversation, in events like ICE, HBC, Sigma. And depending on the size of the company, that first exchange can be with the founder, the CMO, the head of marketing, or the product owner. So sometimes we receive a very clear brief from the beginning, and sometimes it is more an open conversation about the brand, the product, the audience, and the business objectives. For us, that first step is really important because before creating content, we need to understand the vision behind the brand and we need to know what makes it different, what emotion it wants to create, and how it wants to be remembered. And then our approach depends on whether we are speaking to players or to industry partners. There is two markets. So for the B2C market, we focus on immersion. We create worlds that people want to enter. So that can be through mascots, animated characters, strong visual storytelling, or 3D game environments. And the goal is to make the brand more engaging, more emotional, and more memorable for players. And for B2B markets, so the objective is a little bit different. We work more on visibility with a vision, with clarity and authority. So that can be through explainer videos, tutorials, product presentations, or trade show content. So you know it in our famous videos that helps the brand presents its offer in a strong and very clear way. So in both cases, storytelling is really at the center because in iGaming, there is a lot of competition. And if you want people to remember your brand, you need more than just nice visuals. You need a universe. You need consistency. And you need content that connects the product, the message, and the emotion. So, and to make that happen, we follow a structure process. So first, with the team, of course, we define the concept and the storyboard. So we map the story, the world, the characters, and the key moments. This gives a strong creative direction from the beginning. And when the storyboard is 100% validated with the team, then comes the creation phase. This is where the team develops the visuals, the animation, typography, of course, sound design, because we create now the music with AI. So they got, the legal part is totally clear for it, and the music design. And AI can also be a great support here because it helps us move faster, test different directions, and explore more ideas in less time. So after that, we do an internal review. We will find everything to make sure of that the brand identity and delivers the right emotional impact. So we test with the client, we propose a lot of things, and then we go back to the client for final feedback and iteration. And this step is essential because it allows us to validate the vision. So the second very important word here is the attention and vision. So together while keeping the whole creative and universe coherent. So finally, once everything is approved, both sides, we finalize and deploy the content across the wide platforms with all the formats. So 4K, 16 on 9, 19 on 16 square, specific for giant LED screen, like in the show for exhibition. So it's almost in 8K. So we have to adapt it. And so overall, our approach is really about combining strategy, creativity, and technology. So the idea is not just to create content that looks good or beautiful, but content that builds a strong brand universe, captures attention, and stays in people's minds. So I hope
this is
it will be
amazing.
clear.
It is very clear. And even though there's so many steps that come into this process, you really made it very simple to understand. So thank you so much for explaining that. And you work with brands that want global reach, not just local campaigns. So what needs to change in a campaign or creative approach when you're building something for an international iGaming audience instead of a single market?
So working globally means thinking beyond a single culture while remaining relevant locally. So the core is a strong universal concept, a clear visual language, emotional clarity, and an identity that travels across markets. So at the same time, flexibility is crucial. Content must be adaptable from language and cultural nuances to platform preferences without losing its essence. So the challenge is balance. Too localized and the campaign lose consistency, and too generic and it loses impact. So successfully international campaigns are instantly recognizable, so emotionally engaging and resonate across multiple cultures while staying true to the brand's identity. This is exactly what we've been building with clients who trust us internationally, such as Alia, who has been with us since the very, very beginning. So we thanks to us so much and for their trust, as well with Pragmatic Play, for example, for FDG United, Elantil, of course, now since a few months, Blocotech, Felix Gaming's, Vegas Legends, or Gamon, and a lot, many customers. So we are truly grateful for their trust, which allows us to explore, innovate, and build strong global brand experiences together. So it's really important to have a good relationship with trust. So working across these different brands and markets has reinforced one key insight: consistency builds recognition, and adaptation ensures relevance. So together, they make a global campaign both memorable and effective.
Absolutely. And you really have some great brands in your portfolio that definitely work internationally. I'd like to step into some bit of another topic. So in iGaming, where players are constantly exposed to new games and brands, attention is very short and it's switching easy. You even see it when you're scrolling TikTok. Unless you get, the attention within the first second, the person is gone. So a lot of companies really struggle to stay memorable. How do you approach storytelling and visual consistency so that people actually remember a brand after that first interaction?
So such a good question, Magda. In iGaming, players are exposed to new games, every day. So many things, so many visuals, so many contents and brands constantly. So memorability becomes a key challenge. For us, it starts with storytelling and visual consistency. So a strong narrative creates a universe around the brand, and visual consistency makes that universe instantly recognizable. So in, 1 second, you know the game, you know the brand. And in iGaming, people are constantly exposed to new games and brands, so standing out is key. So memorability starts with storytelling and visual consistency, creating a universe that players can immediately recognize and connect with. So the visual hook is essential. With color, with the character. So it can be everything, a specific atmosphere or a unique design style, something that grabs attention in the first seconds. So for example, we brought, Alia's goddess to life, giving a movement personality, so a presence that truly engaged the brand. So similarly, we animated Ellen Boubou, so everybody knows it, for Elantil, and Felix Gaming, it was Felix the cat, turning them into memorable characters. So on the website, on the show, on the screen, on the games, everywhere. So when game, marketing, and brand identity are all aligned, people may forget features, but they never forget the emotions. And that's what makes a brand unforgettable.
Yes, and I will say that The Goddess by Alea is definitely memorable. Back at Ice Barcelona, we actually had a podcast box at the Ella booth, and we were overlooking the statue of Goddess, which was just a great connection to what you created in the video. It's, like it really came from the water into that stand. This is really memorable, so kudos for that. And there's the rise of fake out of home advertising. It's become a major trend for iGaming brands that are looking for organic social media reach. How are iGaming brands using this technology to bypass traditional advertising restrictions and reach a younger digital native audience like Gen Z or Alpha?
So the fake out of home, so the FOOH, really took off around 2023. So even if the roots of the format go back earlier with AR filters like, Snapchat and Instagram, the idea is simple. You blend 3D or CGI into a real environment to make it feel as if something spectacular is happening in an actual public area, public space. So what changed is that social media became the perfect playground for this kind of content. And smartphones became powerful enough to display high quality video in a very smooth and immediate way. So now with AI, the format has evolved again. So it is faster to produce, easier to iterate, and often much more cinematic in the final results, So the video now it's like, Hollywood production. So it's totally crazy and amazing. So fake out of home and CGI campaigns are extremely effective because they are designed for social media, especially. So they are bold, surprising, and highly shareable. So, you produce more and more engagement. So for iGaming brands, they offer a way to generate visibility and organic reach without relying solely on traditional advertising channels, which are often restricted. So these campaigns feel more like entertainment than advertising because they often look like something filmed by a real person in the moment, more like UGC than a traditional campaign. So that makes all the difference. And younger audience scroll very, very, very fast and tend to ignore traditional ads. And there will be the next public, in iGaming. So it's really important to notice that CGI works because it feels native to their platforms and it captures attention instantly and blends into their content consumption habits. So you're not interrupting their feeds, you're becoming part of it. So when content feels native, performance naturally improves.
Yes, absolutely. And you mentioned real life influencers, actually, which brings me to another topic, which is AI influencers and virtual ambassadors. And we have been seeing a clear shift away from relying only on real life personalities like Instagrammers, TikTokers. What do AI influencers and virtual ambassadors bring to iGaming brands?
For me, they bring three key things: control of the content, consistency, and scalability. So, unlike real life influencers, a virtual ambassador belongs fully to the brand. And so the brand controls the image, the tone of the voice, the messaging, and the way the characters grows over the time. So that means everything stays fully aligned with the brand universe. They are also extremely flexible. They can be adapted for different markets, different languages, and different formats, whether it is social media, so website content, video campaigns, or virtual experiences. So what makes them especially powerful is that they are becoming the new version of the traditional mascot. So this is the evolution of a mascot. So, but this time the mascot is alive. So it can speak, move, interact, and evolve. So it is no longer just a visual symbol, it becomes a real content asset. That's why it's important. And that change a lot for social media because with this type of character, you can create exclusive and ongoing content made specially for social platforms. So you can imagine a full content strategy around it with recurring videos, brands moment reactions, storytelling, and community content. So it also makes long-term planning much easier. So you can predict a lot of content. So once the character is well defined and you're okay with that with the team, you can prepare content months in advance. So organize a proper content calendar and even build an entire social media schedule account around that visual and virtual ambassador. So it's really interesting of this kind of practice. So in practical terms, it allows iGaming brands to stay present all the time, activate several markets at once, and build a much more consistent and scalable digital presence.
Yeah, actually, what you said about being present and in multiple markets at once, it's quite crazy, and definitely something that iGaming brands can look into. But there's also a lot of noise around, AI replacing creative work. But what we're actually seeing in leading studios is a very different approach. So in your day-to-day work, how do you use AI as part of the creative process, but without losing the human thinking behind it?
Yeah, this is the big question, At Fortuna Labz, we really see AI as a creative partner and not as a replacement. We existed since more than 20 years, so you can imagine we don't want to replace humans, of course. It is integrated into our workflow to make the process faster and more flexible, but the human vision always stays at the center. So don't be worried about it. So AI is very powerful when it comes to ideation, exploration, and speed. So it helps us test multiple directions. So we can make a lot of tests. So it's very good to us and generate variations, explore styles, or prototype visual ideas much faster than in a traditional process. So we use it at different stages of creation. It can support concept development, mood boards, storyboards, character exploration in 3D environments, of course, animation tests, or social content ideas. So it helps us open up possibilities, but very quickly. So the important point is that AI does not replace creative thinking. It does not define the strategy, the emotion, or the brand vision. That part remains fully human. So our role is to direct, curate, refine, and make choices. So we decide what is relevant, what is strong, what feels right for the brand, and what creates real emotional impact. So AI becomes a tool inside the workflow, one that helps us to optimize production, but always under human direction. So in that sense, it is really a dialogue. AI proposes, humans direct. So AI brings speed, but humans bring taste and storytelling and sensitivity and soul, So that is how we protect the human touch, because technology can generate content, but only people can give it meaning, coherence, and soul, of course.
I really love that approach already, and I couldn't have phrased it better. AI is a great tool, but it will never replace that human sense of creativity and taste, like you mentioned. And as we wrap up, I'm sorry. What would be your advice for an iGaming operator considering working with AI influencers or CGI campaigns or immersive tech for the first time?
I think they have to start with the objective and not just the technology. So it's not you have the AI, so you have to use it. You have to get, a good goal, a good vision. AI or CGI or immersive tools, they are all powerful, but only if they serve a clear purpose. So focus on what you want people to feel and remember, and technology should enhance emotion and not replace it.
Amazing. And how can our listeners reach out to you, to Fortuna Labz?
Also, you can reach us through our website, Fortuna Labz, of course, or connect with us directly on LinkedIn, Aurélie or Cédric Bensoussan. And we are always open to discussing new ideas, especially when it comes to creativity, innovation, and immersive experiences. And we will go on SBC Summit Malta, so don't hesitate.
Amazing. And for everyone listening, Aurélie and Cédric are very active on LinkedIn. And please follow them there because they put out really interesting things. Just today, I saw a beautiful photo of you in kind of a superhero suit, which is really amazing.
It will be interesting. I'm waiting for all the answers and crazy idea about the SBC Summit Malta arriving of our superheroes. So don't hesitate, comment, and you'll see really, really soon.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Aurélie, thank you so much for all your insights and for sharing your knowledge with us today.
Thank you very much, dear Magda. Thank you to your team, and see you really, really soon.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone watching or listening to us. Remember to follow us on podcast platforms and social media to get updates on more episodes like this one. So I will see you next time.